What's good, y'all? My name is Dylan Green, and this is Real Notes, a space dedicated to blurring the cultural and artistic lines between rap and film. I'm here to chop it up with everyone from rappers and producers to journalists and video directors about their relationship to movies and how, if at all, film inspires their craft. My guest this week is New York rapper, producer, and engineer AJRadico. We spoke about the Dark Knight trilogy, Spongebob, Kung Fu Hustle, how 2001: A Space Odyssey helped him appreciate sound editing, how sound editing influenced the way he makes beats, how Fruity Loops, Splice, and iPhone voice memos changed the production game forever, and the creative process behind his debut project, Transit. Come fuck with us. What's crack at, everybody? Welcome back. Real Notes is still here. We're 20 episodes deep. I remembered the number this time. We're fucking 20 episodes deep, and we're here. And I can't believe we're 20 episodes deep. I'm kind of geeked off of that. Name's Dylan, CineMasai. I do a lot of things. I have a lot of names. Those are just two of those things and names. And yeah, we're having fun. Every guest we get on this motherfucker is really incredible and super special, but we got someone who's we got a fucking firebrand out here who's been making noise for he's been making noise for a couple of years, but more and more people, including me, are starting to pay attention now. I was put on to this guy maybe at the beginning of this year, right when he dropped his really crazy project called Transit that I've been screaming about for the last 4 months. I don't know if anybody's heard me, but we got a rapper, we got a producer, we got an engineer, performer, just artist, he's all sorts of different things. We got fucking AJRadico in the fucking place to be today. Yo, man, thank you so much for coming on, bro. I really appreciate you.
Hey, blessed for having me, man. That was the craziest intro I've ever heard. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm trying to get better at the intros. I wasn't super good at it at first, and I want to make sure everybody feels represented. And I'm like you're here because I fuck with you. So I'm just happy I'm happy you even took the time.
For sure. Appreciate it. Hey, 20 episodes in. That's a whole season, mate.
Yeah.
The season.
Shit is loose.
It's crazy.
Man, thank you. It's been a journey so far. I'm learning a lot about all of this. So, the fact that you're here for number 20 makes it even crazier. So, God damn.
Proud to be here.
I appreciate that. So yeah, let me ask you. See, I'm gonna ask you everything. I'm gonna ask you the first question I ask everybody who comes on here. What was the last movie or TV show that you watched that you have a strong opinion about?
Ooh, that's a good one. The last, funny enough, I don't know if this is a strong opinion, but I was at the theater probably a week or two ago, and I had just finished seeing a Quiet Place, and I was like, okay, I already paid for this ticket. Let me go slide and see In the Heights. Man, I don't know if I'm just not a musical person, or maybe New York being represented in that type of way where we got all these actors and it's in the heights literally. I don't know. I felt like that movie was kind of funny. Or how the presentation came off kind of loopy to me.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of things about it because I never saw the musical when it was on Broadway, and I know a lot of people had problems with it for a while, but
yeah,
there was just a lot of talk about the representation and just the fact that was it just came off weird. So I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it at all, so I have no frame of reference. So how do you feel they did representing New York? Did they do good? Did they do bad?
they didn't do bad. They didn't do terrible or anything like that. It's just New York a little more gritty than they made it seem. It's a little more grimy than that. You know, they had this whole, actually, I can't even spoil it for real, but like the scene that I got into, there was just like this whole like deli or something where they were like making a whole bunch of, I don't know. It just didn't seem, it didn't feel like New York. It felt like maybe like if New York always had the sun on, like if it
Mm,
was always daytime or something like that. It felt like that to me.
yeah, nah. Nah.
Very opposite, very opposite of Gotham, you know. That's what I'm accustomed to. Like I'm a huge fan of the Dark Knight series.
Mhm.
And so whenever I see New York represented on in film, I'm always like looking for something similar to that, or like something that's like very real, like big on realism, you know.
Right. And yeah, like and yeah, like from what I've seen, like In the Heights isn't super like it's obviously not like a fantasy. Or I mean like I guess to an extent it is parts of it are kind of a fantasy. like a like
Yeah,
kind of like an outside looking in type shit. But
yeah,
um but yeah, like it's like I said, I have no frame of reference, so I can't even really like speak on it like that. I just know a lot of people had very
yeah,
mixed feelings about that movie, son.
yeah, man. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, everyone's gonna have mixed feelings about any film, so I definitely understand that. But that was just like my kind of uh
Felt like, but yeah, talk to me about the Dark Knight series. Like, what is it like? What is it about that series and Batman in particular that you have a fascination with, or is it not a Batman thing and it's more just about the city, like you were saying?
well, I think oddly enough, you know, Batman's probably not even my favorite like superhero. I wouldn't even call Batman a superhero, but
I wouldn't either.
like I grew up like a big Spider-Man fan, but I think as far as films go and films being superhero films, I think The Dark Knight always struck me as something that was very like feasible, like something that like this shit could happen like in real life or something, which I always
Yeah.
thought was cool. Even though I love like Spider-Man and like his powers and everything and like being able to shoot webs and all of that and how they do that in the movie, I just thought like I love the technology, I love the story and like how, you know, the development of Bruce Wayne into Batman and like how he got to that point. And yeah, I just really like how Nolan did it with the Dark Knight series,
Right.
specifically the Dark Knight.
Yeah. Nah. Like of the three, The Dark Knight is definitely my favorite too. Cause I went
Yeah,
back and watched Batman Begins, and it's kind of iffy. It didn't hold up the way I wanted it to.
it took, you know, I didn't like it at all. Like when it first came out, when I first was seeing it, like I mean, young as shit. So like seeing a like origin movie and it's like, oh, like where's the fighting? Like where's Batman at? And you're just like
Right.
waiting for that whole thing, like automatically made it boring. But I went back and watched all three like during like lockdown and I was like, oh shit, you know, Batman Begins wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Maybe just because I matured and like seen it for what it was, like
Right.
as a origin story. Um, but yeah, I do think though it was kind of iffy, being that was the first of the three too. Um, but yeah, definitely Dark Knight is my favorite.
Yeah, like for me, like when I went back and watched it again, the dialogue is really corny, and
Yeah,
I'm trying
definitely.
like it's just like the coolest part of the movie to me was always just everything going on with Scarecrow, and they do
Yeah,
kind of focus on it a bit, but it's just like the dialogue is just really like like Nolan's like Nolan's whole thing was that he was trying to make a Batman movie that like wasn't really a Batman movie, and he was like trying to split the difference, and it's just like
yeah,
it was just he just didn't have the formula the way he needed to have it. And then The Dark Knight happened, and to me that's like a perfect movie. Like I love The Dark Knight, like
yeah,
everything about it. Like
yeah. That definitely was a, you know, intro for me. Like I was like, whoa, like okay, now this makes more sense to me. Whereas, you know, yeah, Batman, I do get what you were saying about like the dialogue. It was kind of corny. Like this the scarecrow stuff was interesting, and like how he polluted. Like I think all of the things I enjoyed were like the realistic things, like how like polluting the like water supply so that he could vaporize it and then make
yeah.
everybody in the city crazy. Like that's some shit that sounds like ridiculously real. Like I mean, obviously there's like regulations and things like that would stop that from happening, but in a place like Gotham where everything's corrupt, the streets are corrupt, the
Mm-hmm.
politicians are corrupt, and it's like, whoa, okay, I could see that happening.
My favorite part of the whole Batman Begins, on top of how realistic the whole vape, like I thought the Scarecrow's plan was really dope. I thought Morgan Freeman was great as Lucius Fox. And then there's that one scene when where Scarecrow gets injected with the fear toxin, and then he just sees
Yeah,
Batman, and he's just like the man bat for like a second. Like that
that
shit was
shit scared. Yo, that scene used to scare the fuck out of me. I was like, yo, like, nah. That scene scared the shit out of me, man. Yeah, that shit was
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
The
Like
man,
yeah. No, that shit was too wild. And like there really isn't very much of that in The Dark Knight. Like that's like to me, The Dark Knight is more like because like you could even look at what happened in Batman Begins as something a little more fantastical compared to everything that happens in The Dark Knight. Because like The Dark Knight opens with just like a bank robbery, like just like a
yeah,
standard bank robbery, and the Joker is just a wild motherfucker in makeup. Like
yeah.
he's just a nigga in
And
makeup, you know? Like
he's the nigga in makeup, and he set everybody up, which was the craziest. Like when the bus came and like crashed in the shit, I was like,
mm-hmm.
whoa. And like that's such a crazy, like that was such an interesting like intro scene for a hero movie to like I
Yeah.
don't any other hero film that I've seen and or liked has started with a villainous intro like that.
And like it's like the whole line of them, like they all do a thing and then one of them kills the other, and then it's just like it just goes like
Yeah.
that. And then at the end it's like, oh, I thought I was gonna survive, and then he takes off the
No, I
mask and it's
killed a
Joker.
bus
Like,
driver.
yeah. Yeah,
That
nah,
shit. Yeah, nah, that shit was amazing.
man. And I really feel like Christopher Nolan kind of got like that was the one time where he managed to kind of do like half a really cool like realistic thriller movie and
Mm-hmm.
make it a great Batman story on top of that. It's really hard to kind of like do those two things at once and not have it be like too silly or too serious. But I think
Yeah,
that's the one where they like really got the balance perfect. And like what else could we say about Heath Ledger that hasn't already been said? Like bro went stupid. Like
man, he went dumb. Favorite Joker, aside from uh Hamill as you know the animated Jokers.
there you go.
Favorite Joker.
That's the
Yeah.
right choice. That's the right choice.
Yeah.
Him and what's it called? Heath Ledger, Mark Hamill, and Cesar Romero on the Adam West show. Like Cesar Romero
OG.
on the Adam, yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
I think my favorite scene in all of the Dark Knight is the one where the Joker blows up the hospital and he walks, or like he's trying to, and he walks away, and then like the button sticks.
Yeah, no, I love that scene too. Like, and like when Dent is in the chair and he's like, he pulls the mask off.
Yeah.
And he's like, like you didn't know this was him the whole time.
And like literally, and like it's literally just like the face mask that covers the mouth. Like how
Same mask that
like,
everyone's been wearing. Like,
come
man,
on, like, I can't like I tried to rationalize it to myself for years because he might have like gotten some of the chemical shit in his eye, and maybe he's like blind in his maybe he's blind in his left eye, but like I don't know, bro. Like it's so easy to tell that it's him. Like
right?
you know,
Like this is a normal looking nurse with with face makeup on over their eyes, and it looks like a dude.
like come on, bro. Like
uh,
so how do you feel about the Dark Knight Rises? Because the Dark Knight Rises is I won't front. I hate it. I think it's terrible. I thought it was a really bad ending to the trilogy, and just not a nah.
It was messy. It was messy. The Dark Knight Rises was like the Spider-Man 3 of the Dark Knight trilogy. To me, I don't know. Like, I guess like I make that comparison because I felt like there was a lot going on in both films, and because they were both did three. I'm not saying Dark Knight Rises was as bad as Spider-Man 3,
Right.
but it was just as confusing to me in a sense. But I don't know, maybe with like hero films in the third one is always like a trend to just be like, oh, let's make everybody be in this movie. Let's like have like 3 villains. Let's like make it just action packed or something.
Yeah.
But the whole like Bane thing was just like, okay, why is this guy doing this? Like, what is he's like trying to end the world or some shit?
Like the only thing I ever remember about him is that he's supposed to be a part of like the Ra's al Ghul's the League of Shadows.
Yeah.
But like other than that, it's he like because like in the comics, Bane he only exists to break Batman's back. And then he kind of becomes a cool character after that. But here it's just they tried some like really different take on him that's like so different from anything they'd done before. And it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
Like the accent he was going for just made me laugh more than anything. Like that's all I could pay attention to, honestly.
And it's like Tom Hardy, he's a great actor. But like that was just like funny.
Yeah.
And then like the whole nuking the city, pretty much like doing all of that. Like why? Like I just didn't get the motive behind a majority of it.
Right. No, I feel it.
And then like Batman, I guess what was always confusing to me was like how long was he in that shit? Like he had get rehabilitated, they had to fix his back, and then he climbed a wall, like he climbed out of a well or some shit, like and then came back as Batman, all in the span of like what 2 hours.
Yeah,
like I get like it's supposed to be like a longer sequence and things, but like that was always like whoa, like how long was he really in this underground shit? And his body was already fucked up too. So it's like you got double damage, your knee was fucked up, and you just got your knee fixed. Now your back broke, and now you trying to fight this dude. Like I would be chilling. I would be in the crib.
Honestly, like and he's got the underground crib and he could just stay there and like recuperate for real. But then again, the world would it just makes no sense because yeah, like you said, like we don't know how long it's been. Like they just
Yeah,
don't tell us. Like it would have been fine if they just had somebody be like, oh, it's been like you've been gone for like 2 months we don't even get
yeah,
that, you know, like no
yeah,
title
right,
card, no expository dialogue, none of that shit. Like
yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
then and then on top of that, like you were saying, there's just so much going on. Like not even in terms of villains, because like you have the Bane storyline, you have the Robin storyline, you have
yeah,
Talia al Ghul shows up, like you have like everything
yeah.
going on with Alfred and it's just too much. It's just too much. And the Catwoman and Selena Kyle shit,
Catwoman.
like
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so much going on in the one film that it's like, whoa, like how does all of this fit? How do you make all of this fit in a way? And I get it, like in a superhero world, like all of this shit is possible, but still, like we're talking about like a film that we
right.
sit down and watch for X amount of time. It's
And
like,
like
okay, how do we make sense of it?
yo, and then I, because like I'm actually kind of happy you made the Spider-Man 3 comparison because like at least with that, like at least that movie's kind of fun, you know, like that's
Yeah,
like I
that movie is
prefer Spider-Man 3. I'm gonna say that.
no, no, definitely, definitely. I've watched Spider-Man 3 unironically more times than I watched I've watched Dark Knight Rises. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like it's like a lot of people hate it, and I guess I kind of hate it too. But that scene in Spider-Man 3 where where Peter's decked out and he just starts doing like the cringy like the cringy tough dude shit, like I appreciate it. It's really bad, and I think that's supposed to be the point because like that's what he thinks cool looks like. So like I'm
Yeah,
cool with that. Like it worked for me. It's really
yeah.
hard to watch because it's supposed to be hard to watch. And
It's
like
hard to watch. It's all funny because it's like, yo, this is a grown man playing a teenager
exactly.
doing all of this stuff. So it doesn't come off that way because it's like, okay, nah, it just looks like a grown man doing this shit.
Yeah, man. And like and like jumping back to the Dark Knight, I saw when Rises came out, I saw all three back to back. I did one of those like big screenings. They had like the
Uh,
AMC because
uh,
me and one of my homies were really into the movies at the time. And
mm,
the first one was okay. We took a break. The second one, everybody was fucking gassed off the second one. People were like,
yeah,
"Yeah, the third one's gonna be crazy." And then we all watched the third one, and you could just feel the energy die as the movie went on.
yeah,
So it was so like seeing all three back to back to back was like this third
yeah.
one just
It's like,
didn't do it for
man,
me.
this is how we get here. This is what we got to. Damn, I was expecting a lot more.
Honestly, like real big letdown.
Yeah.
Um, real big letdown. So for you, bro, what's the first movie experience you can remember having? Like it could be at the theater, it could be at your cousin's house, it could be like anywhere. Like what's the first time you remember watching a movie?
Damn, that's a great ass question. I have two. Ironic enough that you mentioned at my cousin's house and at the theater, but I have one. I remember watching Kung Fu Hustle at my cousin's house.
That's a
And
crazy movie.
funniest thing, it was like I didn't know whether to be scared of it or like like laughing
Yo.
at it. But yo, Kung Fu Hustle is one of my favorite movies. Um, because of that, because of like seeing it with my cousins. Like my cousins used to live out in Flushing, and I used to go to their house like on the weekends, and we would just play video games and eat a bunch of junk food and watch movies. And that was like the first movie like I remember watching with them. Um, I think one of the first times, or my first one of my first memories of going to the theater was to see the SpongeBob movie.
Another good choice.
The Sponge. SpongeBob is hands down my favorite cartoon. So when the movie came out, it was like I gotta see it in theaters, and I think I went like on my birthday to see it, and I just remember going to the theater and like getting like the funnel cake and all of that, and they were like, "Oh, happy birthday" over the loudspeaker, and then I went to see SpongeBob, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the best day ever."
Ah, it was your
No pun
birthday.
intended.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no pun intended. That's funny.
no pun intended.
Wow.
But yeah, it was like, yeah, I remember going to the theater to see the SpongeBob movie.
That's crazy. Wait. What theater did you go to that served funnel cake? I've never had funnel cake at a movie theater before.
Oh, I don't even know if they do that shit for real, but they did it that time. But there's like there's like a multiplex like all the way like at the edge of Brooklyn. It's mad far for no reason. I don't know why my parents bring me all the way over there, but it's a deep movie theater. Um, but yeah, I remember I went there with my mom and we saw the SpongeBob movie.
That's
David,
fire.
shout out to David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, shout out to everyone's favorite lifeguard, David Hasselhoff. That's that shit was so bizarre cuz like cuz like I imagine that like we're around the same age, so like we were way too young to even know what
Yeah,
Baywatch was. So like just seeing
yeah,
him like I had a general understanding of like who David Hasselhoff was, but then to just like see him pop up, I'm like, who the fuck is
yeah.
that? Like, why is he here?
Who is that guy? And why is he a robot? Why is he a boat?
Yeah, with the fucking mechanical pecs and shit, and like the just
Bruh,
yeah.
that was a trip.
Nah, nah.
Yeah.
SpongeBob's the best. It's actually crazy you bring it up because my girlfriend and I have been rewatching the whole series because it's on Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus. So we kind of like jump between.
Yo,
Yeah, nah, like it's like the whole shit.
yo. You just put me on. I mean, I downloaded it low key. You know,
I
I
mean,
downloaded the whole shit, and I've been watching it that way, but I didn't know it was on there because I would have definitely just streamed it through there. But because there's so many episodes.
sorry.
I just think SpongeBob is such a like interesting cartoon. Like from like just the story and like how the characters work. This is a sponge underwater with a bunch of living animals, like with a bunch of living organisms, and he lives in a pineapple. Like they had to be off the craziest drugs to come.
Yeah, like he's like a sponge who lives in a pineapple, a squid who lives inside an Easter Island head, a fucking starfish that lives under a rock. Oh, and then they get visited by a squirrel, and then there's like a crab who loves money, and the crab's daughter is a whale, like, and his arch enemy is a fucking small plankton, like.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It says so much about real life. Like, yo, this is what the workplace. This is what a workplace is like. You have your coworkers that hate their job,
Mm-hmm.
and I always thought that was funny, like interesting how like Squidward is like the adult of everybody.
Yeah.
He's the adult of the entire show, and it's like I never resonated with it until later. I always thought Squidward was like, yo, Squidward's just annoying. Like he's just a mean old grown up. But then when you get older, it's like, yo, SpongeBob is annoying as shit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yo, like it's crazy because you look at it now with older eyes, and SpongeBob is just that one person you work with who enjoys their job way too much.
Too much.
He's like too much. Like Mr. Krabs is a slave driver, and SpongeBob is just the one that's like, oh boy, an 18-hour shift, like You remember the episode where they open the Krusty Krab for 24 hours a day when they're on the graveyard
Oh
shift? Like, yeah.
man.
He was too hyped to work for 24 hours a day.
The
Like,
hashling and slasher.
the classic. And yeah, just like it's like it's so relatable, just like seeing Squidward do the like, well, maybe not relatable, but like Squidward just going out of his way to like make up this crazy elaborate story just so he could be left alone at work, like just like the lengths that we'll go to just be left alone at our fucking jobs,
And
bro. Like,
Squid's Day Off is one of like I have this shit. Matter of fact, this is how big of a SpongeBob fan.
let me see.
And they just get shit, but
Oh shit. Oh, are they the orange tapes or not?
nah, these ain't the orange taste. These are definitely what I used to be running. Used to be spinning.
Oh, that's so fire.
Are way back when, like 5 episodes on each one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these were my shit after school, just throwing them in the thing. And the episodes I didn't have, you just used to record them onto blank VHSs.
Uh-huh.
That way. But yeah, man.
I just realized y'all can't see what just happened, but he just pulled out 3 of the 5 episode tapes. It's like the tapes, not the DVDs. Like I have the tapes. Like
These are the tapes.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's some other shit. Before we move on, I didn't want to forget about Kung Fu Hustle, because Kung Fu Hustle is one of my favorite movies too, and I think that's a really precious thing to watch with other people, like especially like your cousins. So talk to me about like it's interesting you bring those two Kung Fu Hustle and SpongeBob up together, because they're both like really zany and surreal, and they lean into this, like they're both just really creepy in a way.
Yeah.
Like they kind of like mine a lot of their humor from that kind of like really extreme creepy brand of animation that was brought about by like the Looney Tunes and then later by like Ren and Stimpy and shit. Like
Yeah, no, they definitely are creepy. Like SpongeBob has those scenes where they'll just like randomly throw in like a a illustration, like a big oil painting of a detail, like a detailed insert shot that's just like actors, or like they'll have a random like actual person with makeup on.
Yeah.
And do shit like that. Like seeing that in a cartoon, I don't remember any other cartoons like having those types of weird like features.
Yeah, like the only 2 that come to mind are Ren and Stimpy, and I think Rocco's Modern Life, because Rocco, they used to, I think a whole bunch of the people who worked on Rocco also either created or worked on SpongeBob. So, but other than that, like that was pretty much it.
Yeah, definitely. Ren and Stimpy, another one too. Like that shit just felt like it wasn't for kids.
It wasn't low key.
Oh man, Ren and Stimpy, Cow and Chicken.
Yo, man, Cow and Chicken is one that nobody talks about ever, and like the fact that you can't like watch it anywhere really makes me sad, because I used to love watching Cow and Chicken, and I've been jonesing for it.
It says something about the show though. That says something about it. I used to watch it on Boomerang. My there was a point where I just like, it probably still is, but like my cable box, I don't even really watch TV anymore. Like I don't think I turned on my cable box in over 2 years, but there was a point where I just had it set to automatically just like turn on to Boomerang, and I would just watch all those cartoons, just watch Dexter's Lab and Johnny Quest and all of them greats, you know.
Oh man, yeah, so many classics, and yeah, like and like to see that style be emulated in something like Kung Fu Hustle really was like talk to me about that movie and what that shit did to you when you first saw it.
Yo, that scene where I don't remember her name, but the lady, she like takes the puff of the cigarette and like screams. That scene was crazy to me.
Oh, the
When she,
landlady? Yeah, it was the
yeah, the
landlady.
landlady. She inhaled the whole cigarette and was like, ah! That was like, yo, I didn't know they can do this in movies. Like, just like the special effects of that movie and like how people would fly across the screen and like jump off of walls and things, and like
Hmm.
the two dudes that were playing the instruments and like
Yeah, with the
pulling the
swords.
string.
Yo.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, whoa, like these effects are wild, but this is like not even like this isn't a superhero movie or anything. It's like a weird like combination of a comedy and a drama and like has properties that you would find in like a cartoon but in a
Yeah.
live action film. And that's what I always thought was like interesting about it.
Yeah, like it's really such a weird movie. Like and then like the whole story, the guy wanting to like he wants to be a part of the gang, but like
Yeah,
it's his destiny to be a good guy, but he's fighting against that.
yeah,
And like it's just such a weird fucking movie, and the fact that it works, just like the guy Stephen Chow he's the guy who made like Shaolin Soccer, which is also kind of on that type of
yeah,
time too. Like he's
yeah.
Stephen Chow is a special dude, man. Those are great movies.
Great films.
Oh my
There was
god. And
an
yeah, sorry,
there
what were
was
you gonna say?
another there was another Stephen Chow film that I saw recently. My homie Alan put me on to. I think it was earlier film. I can't remember the name of it. Damn, what was it called? Damn, I don't remember the name of it, but it was another great film.
What's it called? But before we move on, I think another one of my favorite parts of fucking Kung Fu Hustle, there's a fight scene where like it's two guys and one of them's punching really fast and the other is
Mhm.
like blocking his attacks like really
He's just
slow. Yeah, and I had never
yeah,
seen no shit like that either at that time. It just like
yeah, bro.
that shit really just opened my eyes to like, because like it really felt like a live action cartoon. Like I had never seen
Yeah,
anything like that before, and it just was like wow.
yeah.
Like
Like a live action anime is
on
wild.
yeah, there you go. It's even better.
Yeah, the frog guy, like
Mm-hmm.
that shit was weird. The frog dude, like, yeah, there's so many funny and like weird characters in it that, like, yo, this is such a crazy movie.
Yeah, they really created a whole wild universe, and it's what's it called? There actually are a lot of Japanese movies that are like adaptations of anime that like do that same shit, which I didn't realize until way later. But like
Mhm.
there's this other one that I can't remember the name of, but like it's an adaptation of an anime and it's live action, but they do everything they can to like replicate like the big eyes and like the
Yeah,
crazy like movements, and they even like mess with the frame rate to like make it look like a live action cartoon. It's
yeah,
I love when people do stuff like that, like kind of like breaking that line between fantasy and reality. I love that type of shit.
yeah. It's amazing, amazing when they can do it the right way, and when
Yeah,
it's
when they
act, and when it's like not an American film.
yeah.
like, like the American adaptations of like any anime or like manga has just always been not good.
Did you see
Like,
did you see Ghost in the Shell, the new one?
gosh, I couldn't even watch it. Like I
Yeah,
was just
me.
trying. I was trying to watch it, and I was like, damn, why are they doing this? Like, what is this? Doesn't it's cool? Like it looks super futuristic, and the like effects and things and all the CGI and stuff is cool, but like, nah, they could have kept that. They
Yeah,
could
that
have.
shit felt like vandalism, honestly. Like Ghost in the Shell was so important to me growing up. That shit felt like vandalism. Like
I'm just glad, and let me not even speak it into existence.
felt
Let me not. You already know
um
what I'm. You already know which movie I'm gonna say, man.
yeah, yeah. Nah, bro, we don't gotta go there. At least not on camera. Maybe later.
Man.
Yo. But as you're growing up and you're kind of having these experiences with these movies, like as you get older, was there a specific movie that made you fall in love with the art of filmmaking at all? Like, was there ever a moment where you just like looked at it as more than just like a thing to entertain you?
Um, yeah, I think when I went to see 2001 in 2001 A Space Odyssey
Mm-hmm.
in 75 millimeter at the Museum of Moving Image.
Oh,
I had to be in
damn.
high. And I had already seen I've already seen the movie. It was already one of my favorite films, but in seeing a print of it and like seeing it in a theater and like experiencing it that way was like, okay, this is why I like film. Like this is why film is important to me. From just how advanced they were technically, like on screen, like when it comes to effects, like how they did the whole scene with the walking in the space cabin upside down, like to um the smaller things like the match cuts from like the bone where the apes hold it and like
Yeah, right.
being in the beginning and then cutting it to the ship like floating through space. Like
Right, right, right.
those were all things that I like studied like in high school. So seeing all of it like represented like on screen was like, whoa, like it really put things into perspective for me. And I was like, this is like what makes film so fire, because it
Yeah.
combines everything, like it combines music and visuals and effects and everything into one thing that you could experience with people at the same time. And I think that's why I love film.
That's a that's a really good one to choose because it's just such a like it's such like a pure example of craft. Like they put so much work into all the little details of that fucking movie. I just recently learned that all the spaceships, those are all like really detailed models. Like
Yeah,
like
replica.
yo, that it's and like I only found that out because I was watching this other video where they were talking about how not all of the spaceships, like not all the models still exist today. Some of them do, but there was one, I think it was the circular one. I forget what it's called. Um, they had shipped it somewhere, and like somebody found it in a box, and they were like, "Oh shit, this is one of the spaceships from 2001: A Space Odyssey," but they
Yeah,
couldn't take it home with them because they couldn't fit it in their car.
that would have been the craziest come up.
And then but like it gets worse. The day after, like a bunch of kids found it and destroyed it. They just destroyed this
Yo,
like piece of film history. Like they just
damn,
it's like beyond repair. They can't put it back together. Like it's just gone.
damn,
Like
damn. That just goes to show you know, bad archival work can lead to shit just not existing anymore. It only
like
it only exists in the film now, which is wild.
exactly. Like that's the only
Like,
place you can see it. Like
which is wild. Like the same, well, not the same thing, but I think at Moving Image they have one of the models that they use from Blade Runner, and it
mm,
like I was looking at it and I was like, yo, this they made this shit look humongous on screen. Like the way they were able to get away with doing that like on film, like it would be easier like to tell, like I guess with digital with digital now, but how they were able to make small like figurines look life sized, and like how they were able to just manipulate how they looked was always interesting to me. Like I think that's something that we don't really see in film anymore because it's just easier to do with like computer graphics.
Yeah,
But
facts.
the amount of time that they put in, like the amount of work that artists put into crafting these like ships and like I don't know, the spaceships and buildings and things that they use like in Blade Runner or like in the Star Wars films was
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of work, like a lot of work and a lot of time for them to be on screen for the little moments that they were, which is like wow, like that's amazing. That's amazing.
Nah, facts. Like I love, like I'll always love practical effects of any kind just because of that type of shit. Like they managed to save one of the original Death Stars they used in Star Wars too. I think that's like in a museum somewhere. And
Really?
like and yeah, like that type of, like that's just so, that's also really interesting to me. Like just
Yeah.
just just like the amount of thought and care and love you put into something like that for it to only be on screen for like, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like that's like anybody willing to go that extra yard to like give us that is, it's usually worth it. It's very rarely not worth it, you know? Like,
Facts. Facts. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Sheesh. So so like this happened to you in high school, and I assume at this point you were already at least some sort of interested in music. So talk to me about when you first fell in love with music. Like when did that happen?
So with music, I always like I grew up in a musical household. Like all like my aunts and uncles were musicians, and so I think from an early age I always had a connection to music, and I've always been around musicians. And I guess like I used to beatbox a lot in elementary school, and get, I would get calls home like, oh, like he's beatboxing in class, and he's like drawing on the desk or like writing lyrics on the desk. And so when it came time, I guess like between middle school and high school, I like got my first computer, and I was always like techie. I was always into just different programs and things and video games and things. And my computer wasn't able to play games. So this like next
Mm.
best thing to me was just like being able to make music or like make art of any type.
What
And so
um s- Sorry to cut you off. What kind of computer did you have?
I had like a Dell laptop. It was like this prehistoric, like monster laptop that was just like probably 5 inches thick.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, like it was like one of them very heavy Dell Inspiron or whatever it was called, like one of them old ones that you would see at like an office firm or some shit like that. And I only got it because my dad used to work like at like a hospital, and I guess he just had a connect that was just like, oh, you can get these laptops, like they're throwing them out and getting new ones for the company. So he just brought my first two laptops I got that way actually. So he brought one home and he was like, yeah, you could use this. And so I was like, it was Windows XP, slow. It wasn't too slow, but I was able to do shit on there. And I got
Hmm.
Fruity Loops on there, and I started making my first beats on there. And I was like, whoa, like this is cool. And that kind of introduced me into like just like the world of music online, because I would start looking for drum kits and like different sounds I could use, and I would come across other musicians and like other beat makers. And yeah, that was kind of my intro into like making music.
Man, Fruity Loops raised so many of us. Like Fruity Loops and GarageBand started so many journeys through this shit, bro. It's like I can't even
So
put into words how important those two things are.
so many. Like I used to have, I used to have this one. I think in fourth grade, I had these two teachers. I had these two teachers that I gotta give them the credit because if I didn't have these two teachers, that I don't know, I might not have like wanted to produce. But I had this one teacher. She was the only teacher in my school that had Macs in their classroom for some reason.
Mm, valuable.
And and so like it looked much more fascinating than the regular Dell computers that we had. Is they had all the colors and like the original iMacs with the big back.
Right,
She
right,
had the
right.
orange ones and the blue ones. So I was like, what's those? And she would always be like, don't touch them. But eventually, like, she let us go on them, and I found GarageBand, and I was like, whoa, this is cool. Like, I want one of these. But Macs are like expensive at the time. I mean, they're still expensive. And like, we were just like, whoa, like you could get these, like you could make this, like you could make movies and like make music on these computers. And I always used to stay in her class like extra time just to be working on there. And then the other teacher I had, she had this website that we used to do schoolwork on. And she had ads on the website too. And somehow, some way, I came across an ad for Splice. And this was
Ooh.
early, like this is early Splice. This had to be like over. I was in fourth grade, so this is mad long ago.
Right.
And back then, Splice used to be a DAW. Like it used to be a like online DAW where you could go to the website and then drag the sounds the same way Splice is now. It was literally all online. So you would drag, like people would upload sounds and shit, and like you could make arrange things and make beats on it that way.
Right.
And but like imagine that with like LimeWire graphics where like everything was shiny and shit. So I found that website and I was like, whoa, like this is mad cool. So like when we eventually got like a home computer and like I was able to do that at home, I was always on there and making beats on there. And then I guess it shut down and then I just couldn't find it. And then Spice came back a couple years ago and I was like, oh shit, they're back. And like now, now it works with Ableton. And I'm like, whoa, this is so sick. Like I think one of the first beats I ever made was through that software. So shouts to them.
Wow, that's incredible. Honestly, like that's because like I didn't use Splice when I was younger, but I knew a few people who did, and I had heard about it just like through the grapevine and shit. And
Yeah,
yeah, just to like just to see how all these different programs, like the early versions of them, like really just like spurred something crazy in so many people. And that's
yeah,
like it's just always important to remember those beginnings because like damn.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And like I know that found sounds also play a pretty big role in the way that you produce too.
Mhm.
So like talk so like what is it about, found sounds that you love so much that you can use to like help you make beats? Because of course not everybody uses those, and you can do really fire shit with them anyway. It's like it's almost like movie shit because like people use found sounds to like in post production to like
Like
emphasize
fully,
things. Yeah,
yeah, like
exactly.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think my use of it is very like comes from that and like comes from editing videos and like being in that world. So um I think when it comes to found sounds, it's really about telling the story, and it's about enhancing how you tell the story. And so whether it be adding the little footsteps to a film, like when you're walking through snow, it's the same thing with music. You just can't see it, but you can visualize it in your head. So it has to be much more, present. And so I think a majority of the found sounds on transit came from me just being nosy on the train with my like voice memos app open whenever someone gets into an argument or someone has some a hot take to say on the train. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And you would only get this from being in this place at this specific time in this very moment. And I think that's special. So I wanted to incorporate it into transit because that's what transit was all about. It's about getting from one place to another and what happens in that time.
Right. Nah, because the one part that always sticks out to me is at the end of No Mask when that argument is happening. Like did that happen on the train? Like, did you get that on the train?
The one where she's like, oh, you're gonna know my stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that was funny enough, that wasn't in New York, that was in Jersey. um
Hmm.
I was on the way to Union. Shout out my homie Reg. But I was on the way to Union because he was doing a show out there. He has his band called Vibe World, and they like are from Jersey and shit. And so I was like going to go to one of their shows and shit. And it was the first time I ever like ventured out of New York to go to a show. And because they always come here, and I was like, yo, I gotta go see my homies. So I went and took the bus, and it was crazy because I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, I didn't know buses even go on the highway and like do all of that on the NJ Transit. And so I'm on the bus and it's packed, and like there's like no seats. And I'm like, okay, I got my seat. I'm just sitting next to someone. And this dude comes in, and this woman, she's sitting in the seat and she has her bags on the chair. And he's like, can you move your stuff? And she's like, all right, like, okay. And he's like pressing her, like, oh, could you move it like now? Like, hurry up. And she's like, who are you talking to? Like she was like obviously like with the shits. And he's like threatening her. And she's like, oh, I'm gonna throw your bags. And she's like, you're gonna do what? And then that's like when that whole thing happened. She's like, you're gonna throw my stuff, you're gonna throw my stuff. And the bus driver stops the bus like on the side
Oh
of
shit.
like the exit just to go like to clear the situation up. And eventually someone like a couple chairs behind her just is like, yo, dude, like you could just sit here next to me, like you're making it a big deal. Like this woman obviously has a bunch of bags with her and she just got off work, and you're like kind of like being annoying. And yeah, I was just there like eavesdropping with my phone while that whole situation happened. And that's how that came to be. But if I wasn't going to Jersey for that one show, I probably wouldn't have gotten that. But yeah, that same skit then also like extends onto my song Brownstone. Like in the beginning, it's just like it's the same woman. She's like, yo, I bet you feel better now. Like
Mm.
you feel better now. You sitting down, like you were talking all that shit earlier. You should have just closed your mouth. And that was like the close that was a closer for the project. And so I was like, this is perfect. And that's how that came to be.
Wow, that's loose. I didn't even put two and two together to realize that that was the same person. Cause Jersey's wild. I'm like, I know that technically happened with people who were probably from, or maybe not from New York, but like, we get wild down in Jersey. Things
Yeah.
happen over here. That's a crazy story though. Like, just to, because like that's something that I've been noticing a lot more people I know doing lately. Like, just like randomly record, like even if it's not like conversations, it'll just be
Yeah.
like nature sounds, like, and just like having like voice memos is really, it like, once again, changed so many lives, complete
Oh,
game
and,
changer. Like,
and you know what's crazy? Apple or Samsung or whoever, like whatever type of like phone you have, that wasn't even the plan. That wasn't
right.
even, I can guarantee like that wasn't the plan when they came up with that software. They probably was like, okay, people probably are used to like doing interviews, like how people used to have the little tape recorder. It just came from that, but
I still
we've
got my
re
shit in my bag. It's so funny you mentioned that.
and you know it's crazy. I have a tape recorder too.
Wow.
So I be just using like shit just to like document things. Like it just like having the hardware for stuff and like is like always cool, but like the accessibility of it just being in your phone is just like
Yeah.
maybe so many things, like created so many things, you know.
Nah, totally. And like, you're so right about the fact that that was probably not his intention at all, but like that's the most
Yeah.
hip hop shit you could do. Like, just like flipping the shit for your own needs. Like,
Yeah.
that's the most rap shit possible.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, man. It's like I think I think for me, like listening to like Wu Tang or like whoever like do the skits on do the skits where they're like, yo, we gonna go rob this nigga, da 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 da.
yeah.
They had to go to the studio and record all of that shit and
All
like arrange it. So I'm like, damn, like that's a lot of work. Like, especially when like not like seeing it come from a time where studios cost like millions of dollars, like all like the equipment it took to make like albums and like just music in general, like in the 80s or 90s was like ridiculous. Now all of that is literally in our pockets. So the simplification of making music is just has been very, very high. Like,
right.
and yeah, you know, shouts to technology because it's going to keep on evolving. And as technology evolves, our creativity evolves. So,
Yeah. We're adaptable. Human beings, in particular, black human beings, are extremely adaptable. Like,
big facts.
and like, and like, now you got me thinking, like, like how would the skit before the Method Man song on 36 Chambers sound if they
Yeah,
all recorded that like differently than they did? Because like that's
that's
one of my favorite moments on any album ever. That skit is crazy.
yeah, yeah. Like, damn. Yeah, I always think about like if the technology we had today was shifted back 20 years or 25 years, how would these classic albums come out?
Mm,
How much different would they be? How much different would they sound? What genres would exist today? Like I'm always questioning that. Like because you know, I feel like genres in music or at least contemporary music comes from a lot of it comes from technological like advance.
right.
Like we weren't able to really sample over 10 seconds of a song because computers just couldn't do it back
Yeah.
then. And so that's why Kanye samples used to be sped up and shit. Like that's why they used to be because it would take less like storage space. Now or a RAM. Like now that's not even a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Now if you wanted to do that, it's like reverse engineering. And so and so yeah, I always think about that. Like if the limitations that we had in making music were pushed back, the same way the advances we've made in technology were also pushed back, how much different would music be? And I think that's a challenge that I always um try and like commit to when making music. Like I always think, okay, when I'm making a song, I don't want to make it sound like it came out today. I want to make it sound like it came out whenever it comes out. Like making timeless music is not something that you can like do. It's something that you come across, and that only comes from how it sounds.
Right.
Um, but yeah, um, yeah, that's always on my mind when it comes to music.
I feel it. And it sounds like that was something that was on your mind while you were making Transit, because of course you had already had a handful of songs that dropped before Transit. That you had Candy, and then you had the three singles, which are all from Transit: Armor, Center, and Ball Hog.
Yeah,
So like was that so like was the or yeah, like let me not just assume, like was that something that was on your mind while you were putting Transit together?
yeah, definitely. When I was putting Transit together, the main thing for me was like, okay, I don't want this to like I don't want this to be stuck in 2020 or 2019 kind of era or of sound, or like I don't want it to feel like it's locked to this certain age, you know?
Yep.
And so when I was making it, when I was producing the album, a lot of the elements of the instrumentals I was rethinking and like stripping back, like taking out things that didn't need to be in there, or like putting in things that sounded more fitting to that idea. And part of that was the found sound, and part of that was also like taking out samples and using certain textures for drums and things. And yeah,
Yeah, and like that's really not an easy thing to do, to like make something that sounds like it, like not even that it necessarily fits in a modern context, but something that could just fit into any context. Like that's really difficult to do. And one of my and just like one of my favorite qualities of this project is that it really does sound like it could have come from, it sounds like it could have come from any time this millennium, you know, like I'm gonna go back to No Mask again, because like that, like to me that song is just such like, it really just encompasses all those elements in it. Like you have the sample in there. I forget what song it's from, but it's like but like it's been used quite a few times. So like that was automatically familiar to me. But then
Mhm.
you just come in with like the but then you come in with the fucking crazy drums when the hook comes in, and it's just like, and just like the effects you put on it, like it's like it sounds like, it almost sounds like something you might hear on like a Diplomats or like a Kanye record, and then it
Yeah,
just turns into something else. And then it just
yeah.
turns into like something more modern. I just love that
Mhm.
mix. It's tight.
Thank you. Yeah, I think yeah, like that's and the funny thing about the sample, I was like when I found it originally, it was like in this sample pack that I had on my computer for ages, and there was a whole bunch of things in there. So when I came across it, it just struck me as like some like very cinematic feeling thing. It felt like part of a soundtrack. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I made the beat, um, I was like, okay, when I'm writing to this, I have to write about film. Like I have to take what I know about film and make that what the song is about, because it just would make sense with how the texture of that sample was. And so that's why a majority of the lyrics are about camera work and like zooming in and panning out and lights and like all the technical things that go into being on a film set or like being a cinematographer. And yeah, that was what I felt when I was making No Mask. And you know, that isn't the first time like I've like made like a song that was in that lane, but I definitely think No Mask was like the first time I went into the specifics. So yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like that's such a like there's so much movement to that song. Like it really like it really reminds me of like the rumble of the train. It really reminds me of just being active. Like that's like an active song.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like there's just so much energy to that. And one thing that's or not one thing, but like you wrote, produced, recorded, and mixed this whole shit yourself, which is like a really big like that's congratulations because like holy shit that's so much work. but like
Yes.
but like between all of that, what was the most challenging aspect of putting this whole project together since you did everything but master it yourself?
Um I think um I think the hardest part was meshing the songs together. I think the hardest part was like bringing them together in a way that um felt like a project. Or actually let me not say it felt like a project. Like I think ordering them, like putting them in the order that they are in the project took time for me because I had other songs that didn't end up making the project or I felt like could have been on the project. So I think just like going through like my batch of songs and like figuring out which ones went for that project and went like fit into transit the best, that like took me some time to sit with. And I was like, okay, once I do this, I have to like come up with like the skits and things. And then eventually the skits just ended up being the found sound. And that's what tied the project together. Um, but yeah, I think that was the most challenging part. It was also the most fun part because it was like making a DJ mix of some sort or like
Right.
making a mixtape or something. That's why I found it so fun.
Right. And yeah, like transit has that like mixtape energy to it, just in the sense of how it's put together, because I think it flows really well. Like for me, like the run from Armor to Ball Hog to Center to No Mask is like that's like those four songs fit together. They feel like they need to be like I couldn't imagine listening to Armor and then hearing Paragraph. Like this isn't a
Yeah.
project I could just throw on shuffle. Like it's something that when I listen to it, it's got to be front to back.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I had in mind too. Like
Yeah.
I think my next project is definitely going to be more shuffleable, but with transit I wanted to give you that feeling of like being on the train and like knowing each stop, or well, being on the train and not knowing what stop is going to come next,
Mm,
having that unpredictability of a mass transit ride, where like yeah, that's why it was just like kind of like a shorter project, and um not too many songs, and I just wanted to be kind of the length of like a everyday commute to work, or like commute
Right.
back from work, and like that was what I was intending when I was putting the project together. So yeah, definitely meant to be played from front to back. Um, but yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that. That's really sick.
It's fire. Yeah, and I can see all of that because yeah, like it's less than 20 minutes. It's like 17 minutes all the
Yeah.
way through. And it yeah, and like going to the unpredictability thing, like it's just from the beats to the flows that the flows that you pick up, like the way you skated on that back half of Armor is just like you just like ran through that shit. And and you're like, that's different from what you do on Ball Hog, and that's different from what you do on like Vertigo, like it's I could definitely see that air of unpredictability running through
Mm,
this whole shit, and that's one of the things that makes it so exciting,
yeah.
like it
Bless.
yeah, no, of course. Like it's just like, I don't like to use this word randomly, but it just feels kind of fun, like it not silly, because it's
Mm,
not silly. It's just like I said, it just feels active. It just feels
yeah.
like it's like a journey. It just, like it's you already said it.
Yeah.
I'm really just amplifying what you just said, and like I feel it when I listen to it, and that's really
Word.
dope.
Word. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was definitely like, you know, being in the city, you gotta be active, you know.
Yeah.
Being being in Gotham, you gotta be active. So all of that energy had to be in the project, or it just wouldn't have made sense to me. So that's I try and put um that energy into the instrumentals, into the beats, and like how they sound, because you know I could rap and like do all of that too, but like at the end of the day, like when you're hearing the music, it's like, okay, this is like where it's coming from. This like energy. I feel like my vocals and like how I record, uh the energy is in parallel with how the beat sounds. And so that was the core of the project, and the feel of the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dope. And like that really feels like, so like it feels like you're telling me that that just kind of feels like it's emblematic of your sound in general, because like there's so many different pockets of rap happening in New York right now. Like there's like 80 million different kinds. I'm not even going to try to list them all.
Yeah.
But but like your music feels like it's from the city. It feels like it's got that movement, but it also pulls from so many other different places that it's like it doesn't I don't want to say it doesn't feel like it belongs anywhere, but it's just like, on top of feeling timeless, it feels just kind of like spaceless, if that makes sense. Just like it could exist
Hmm.
anywhere, you
Hmm.
know? Like,
Yeah.
and like it feels like New York, but like it wouldn't feel out of place if I heard it somewhere that wasn't like a bustling city.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense in a bustling city, but it
Yeah.
sounds like it could be anywhere.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I think um with transit in particular, I've always wanted it to be like being an artist from New York, like is always that's always like the talk. That's always like, okay, if you're from New York, you got to either be on some real hip hop, like real boom bappity shit, or following what's trendy, and I didn't want to do either. um, because I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like I could like spit the spit the old head bars and like do all of that, but like I feel like that's for a time that it came from. You know, that's for the time that it exists in. Um, and just like having fun with it is more important. Like being able to express yourself however you want without having to worry about how other heads from New York perceive it, or like how the world perceives New York, because I think the world has always just seen New York as that, and because it's like the tri-state is just like the birthplace of hip hop, and so
Mm-hmm.
when you see, okay, the birthplace of hip hop, okay, this is what hip hop started like, and this is how people are going to be used to it, like sounding. I always wanted to turn that on its head, and that's what I want to do with. That's what I want to do really with all my music, not even just transit. It's just that's always the main focus.
Mm-hmm. I could tell. And like even on top of all of that, like you're still barred out on all these songs too. It's not like you're not rapping, but it's not, like like you're not like you said, you're not delivering it in the way that people might be expecting you to. Like
Mm.
like you're not like you're not Onyx or any shit like that, but you're also not like Young MA. Like you're not like A Boogie, you're not like Lil TJ. Like I don't know why Onyx came to mind at first. Like, don't ask me.
Shout out Young and May though. Shout out.
Honestly, yeah, no, she's fire.
Yeah, crazy.
No, she's amazing. What's it called? Off the Yak was cool.
Oh
I was actually just running that a couple days ago.
yeah, hard.
Yeah,
Young
nah,
and May is definitely an underrated lyricist
yeah,
from too. Like shout out Young and May.
yeah, nah. That whole like pe- like I feel so bad that her story in the making didn't get the attention that it deserved, because like she had that huge moment, and then she did something that nobody ever does. She took her time making that album, and then it came out and it was so crazy, but people
Yeah,
just like not to say that it like went completely under the radar, but it just like it didn't feel like as big a moment as she deserved, you know?
yeah, yeah, and that's like that's how it is putting out a project. That's how it is putting out a first project, sometimes second, sometimes third. Being from New York, like you gotta make your first project really like stand out for it to be heard, unless you like get radio play or like you got like or even like post all of that. Like you would have hits and all of that, but when it comes time for the project, it's like okay, like you got to really double down on this shit and like for real put in
Right.
put in work. And so and but every not everyone sees that work. Not everyone on the outside of the music or on the outside of the art sees how long that can take and how much work goes into it. So I understand that, it kind of is.
Right. Yeah, like it's a statement. Like
Yeah,
yeah, like especially like a debut project. Like that was MA's debut project, quote unquote.
yeah,
And like it felt like a statement. It's just like the moment didn't really reflect that the way that it should have, considering how big ooh was. It's
yeah.
always so weird saying that the name of that song out loud and like not in the context and like the melody and shit. Like
I be forgetting that it's even called ooh. I just be
right.
calling it Ebony.
I mean, you're not wrong.
It would have worked. It would have worked either way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, They should have put it in the parentheses like I do sometimes, where it's like, ooh, Heffany. Yo,
Yeah,
nah,
that would have been crazy.
that's so fire. And yeah, you know, like the last thing I want to ask is, like, we're talking about statements, and transit does feel like a statement in that way. Like you were just talking about how you know, like as someone who doesn't get radio play and isn't necessarily being looked at by like the people putting together like whatever big playlist or whatever the fuck, like it feels like a statement. It feels like this is you saying like, this is what I want to do, and this is the type of time I'm on. And I guess just to kind of close this out, like how would you define the AJRadico sound? Like what is it that I don't even want to? I'm just let me just leave it there.
How would I define it? Shit, archival. I think the best way I could define it is archival, because I think there's nuances in the music that I make that come from a time that you I wouldn't like necessarily pinpoint. But I also think that they exist in the time that they're made. And so for years to come, and for the future's sake, I think, and this could be really said about any music, especially like contemporary, like drill, or like, I don't know, like Lightfoot music and anything coming out in New York right now. There's always inspiration from somewhere else, you know? And there's always inspiration that's given off. And so that is how I view my music. And that's, with transit being out and coming out in this pandemic, I think my main statement coming off of this project is just like, we're going somewhere. We might not know where we're going, but this project was a map of point A and point B.
Right.
We're only just in the middle of it. And that's my best way of putting it.
Wow. See, I didn't even think about the fact that this is your debut project and you put it out during the pandemic. Like that's a whole other challenge. Like that's like nobody before COVID really had to think about that type of shit, because like putting out music in the world, in the plain old world, is hard enough, but like having to fight for people's attention during
Yeah.
during fucking COVID is like, wow. So the fact that you managed to punch through the way you have so far is like, that's not nothing.
Yeah, man. And like, shouts to every artist like who's been like moving through this pandemic and putting music out, because this shit is not easy. Shouts to everyone that's like just like creating, like all creatives who are surviving through this pandemic, because there's so much other stuff to to be like paying attention to, and there's so many other things to worry about. But at the end of the day, we do what we do because it's important to us, and it's important to those around us to have something that we can be entertained by, because there's a lot of fuck shit in the world. there's a lot of there's a lot of foolery, and there's a lot of confusion. But at least when we have entertainment and we have art, we can come to ourselves and really just like sit back and enjoy life and shit. Yeah.
Totally. Fucking yeah, man. Entertainment and art are medicine. We don't really look at it that way, but like the shit is medicine, you know? Like we need to laugh.
Yeah, 110%, man.
Like, we need to laugh, we need to smile, we need to dance, we need to sing, we need to just like feel, we need to feel centered. You know, like the
Fact.
shit keeps me centered. like listening to your music and the music that I like in general, that shit centers me, you know, like, so that's, and like, I'm not the only one. So it's, you
Likewise,
know, like
yeah.
we're all helping each other. And that's, I mean, like, obviously it's not the most important thing in the world, but it's an important thing. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like, that's a constant, you know? So it's
Yeah.
just, that shit matters. I don't even know what else to say. That shit just matters.
Facts. Period.
For real, period. Well, yo, bro, this was so dope. Thank you so much. Wow.
Yeah, bro. Likewise, man. I've had a great time. Glad that we got to chop it up and shit. This is sick, sickening.
Ah, man, me too. Yeah, just like seeing the movement and seeing the people, like seeing you gain more momentum over the course of the past, like however many months it's been, has been really dope. Like, and just like, it's only, like, I know this isn't the end for you. Like, you got a lot more coming, and it just feels like like this just feels like you shooting hoops in the park. Like, this just feels like what's the word I'm looking for? Man, my
It's
brain
the
is
free
failing.
throw.
Yeah, exactly.
Free
It's the free
throw.
throw. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
free
we
throw.
gonna run it up.
It's the exhibition. There we go. It's the exhibition game.
The
It's the
exhibition
exhibition game.
game.
There it is.
Facts. Yeah, we running it up. We gonna keep running it up, and
Aw,
and I'm excited for what's coming next. Putting that new shit. Yeah.
hell yeah, you already know. Thanks for listening. Shout out to y'all for making it this far. And shout out to all the black people listening too, because y'all really impeccable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend to come through next time. 1.